So to officially start, may I invite Ambassador Robles to please give your welcome remarks, sir. Sir, the floor is yours.
All right. Colleagues, good evening to us in Canada, and good morning to our colleagues in Manila. The pandemic significantly altered the way we conduct our business and interact with each other. The availability is provided by technology suddenly allowed us to meet virtually across the globe. With nearly 1 million Filipinos living and working here, Canada hosts the second largest Filipino diaspora after the United States. When providing consular services to them, we note that a significant percentage of the documents that we notarize relate to transactions involving real estate in the Philippines. Finding the opportunity made possible by technology and linking this with our desire to empower Filipinos in Canada by imparting to them practical knowledge, I took advantage of my friendship with our resource speaker, Deputy Administrator Robert Nomar Leyretana, and invited him and his team to provide us with more information on land registration issues falling under the mandate of the Land Registration Authority. Thank you, Deputy Administrator Bob, and your colleagues for accepting our invitation to join us today. The Land Registration Authority, or LRA, is an agency of the Philippine government responsible for issuing decrees of registration and certificates of title and registered documents, patents, and other land transactions for the benefit of landowners, agrarian reform beneficiaries, and the registering public in general. I invited Deputy Administrator Bob to brief us on the A2A, or Anywhere to Anywhere program of LRA, and to respond to the list of questions we have gathered from our Philippine posts in Canada. With this webinar, I am sure Deputy Administrator Bob will cover all property issues and concerns that we may have in mind, and maybe more. As we inform ourselves on land titling issues and processes, it likewise becomes our responsibility to pass on our knowledge to our consular clients whenever they have questions relating to our discussions today. I am confident that the knowledge we will be learning today will help our Philippine posts in Canada provide more services to our Filipino overseas. My friends, I look forward to an productive interaction in this webinar. So I say now, maraming salamat sa ating lahat at sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay!
Thank you, sir, for your welcome remarks. Another admin reminder, may we request everybody to switch on your camera. This webinar will be recorded, and after this webinar, we'll be circulating the link to all our Philippine posts in Canada with a request that you upload them to your social media so we'll be able to reach the leaders of the Filipino community within your jurisdiction. Before we proceed to the next part of our program, allow me to introduce the Philippine team in Canada. Ambassador Robles heads the team in Ottawa. Our Philippine team in Vancouver is headed by Consul General Mayan Austria. Our Philippine team in Calgary is headed by Consul General Saldi Patron. The Philippine team in Toronto is headed by Consul General Orontes Castro. We have two honorary consulates, and we have with us tonight our honorary consul in Winnipeg, Mr. Ronald Opina. Our honorary consul in Halifax, I believe, is traveling and is out of the country. With that, I now turn over the control of this webinar to the Senior Vice President for Legal of the Land Registration Systems Incorporated, Attorney Rona Demetria, to introduce our guest speaker for this afternoon. Attorney Demetria, the floor is yours.
Afternoon, everyone. Our presenter is a dedicated public servant of the Philippine government for almost 2 decades now. He is a father of 3 and an outstanding student back in the days. He earned his AB Political Science degree at the University of Santo Tomas and his Juris Doctor as a university scholar at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Law. He thereafter worked as legal officer for the Presidential Commission for the Urban Poor at the Office of the President. He was also an associate lawyer of Robles, Ricafrente, Aguirre Law Offices, and it was there that he earned his mettle as a litigator under the mentorship of his former boss, our Ambassador Rodolfo D. Robles, or RDR, as he was eminently called. Honing his skills and consistent with his character as sharer of knowledge, he taught law at the Ateneo Law School, the La Salle College of Law, and the New Era University College of Law. And at the same time, he is a part-time bar reviewer and MCLE lecturer in various law schools in Manila and outside of Manila. As an expert in the field of laws, of land laws, I meant, he began his arduous journey to achieve such feat as a chief of the law division of the LRA, or the Land Registration Authority, and rose through the bureaucratic ladder as director of the Legal Affairs Department, and finally to his present position as deputy administrator. He had a brief stint as officer in charge administrator for LRA in the year 2017. As a subject matter expert, he is a most sought after resource speaker in the Philippines, the ASEAN countries, and has earned him a distinct honor to be invited and speak before the World Bank Annual Conference on Land Governance and Poverty Alleviation in Washington, D.C., which he has been regularly attending since 2017 until this COVID pandemic broke out. Without much fanfare, I would like to introduce Deputy Administrator Robert Nomar V. Leyretana, or simply we call him Dep Bob in LRA. Thank you very much. Sir?
Thank you, Attorney Rona, and good here in the Philippines. It's good morning, and out there in Canada, good afternoon to you all. Before presenting my presentation, I would like to personally mention the name of Ma'am Nora, the beautiful wife of Ambassador Robles, who is here right now. And of course, I would like to give recognition to all the members of the diplomatic corps of our Philippine Embassy in Canada, uh, consisting of the 4 consulate generals in the country, in Canada. Sir, if you remember, this was your baby. This event would not have come into reality if not with the germ that you infected on me. I remember uh, a few days before your birthday, tinanong mo ako, Bob, ano bang pwede kong itulong sa Filipino community here in Canada of any service from the Philippine government that can reach even if they are here in the in Canada. So I told you, sir, we have some initiatives programs and projects in LRA that might be able to reach our Filipino community in Canada. And here it is now, sir, with your initiative, with your help, we are now here. So my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, but before that, let me also introduce my team, the members of my team, namely, on behalf of the Administrator of the Land Registration Authority, Judge Renato Di Bermejo, and our private partner, who is which is the third-party provider of our computerization program, which is in the centerpiece of our program, SVP for Operation, Mr. Ernest Camarillo, our LARES SVP for Legal, Attorney Rona Demetrio, who introduced me a while ago, the Executive Assistant of the Administrator, Miss Amilu Katungal, our LRA Project CARP Director, which is in charge of our function as one of the partner agencies of to implement agrarian reform program, Attorney Sarah Lynn Mansanal, and the rest of our LRA LARES team. My presentation should be brief. No? It should not last for more than 30 minutes. I would like to endeavor to finish the 37 or 35 slide presentation, but I will focus more on the list of questions that were earlier given to me by Ambassador Robles. I suppose these are the most common questions that our members of our Filipino community in Canada would be asking. So, Attorney Rona, would you like to share my presentation on the screen? Or ako na?
Ikaw na, sir. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Can you see my screen now? Ladies and
Sir.
gentlemen, can you now
Opo.
see my
Sir.
screen? All right. All right. So my presentation is about the initiatives and programs that were initiated by the Land Registration Authority in order to cope with the pandemic. Not really because of the pandemic, but even prior to the pandemic, we have been conceptualizing these ideas. As a matter of fact, we embarked on a quite ambitious computerization program in the LRA. One of the pioneers in the government bureaucracy, actually, and we have the largest in IT infrastructure, mind you, with all humility, in the apparatus of the government, because we are in charge of registering and issuing titles, transactions pertaining to original titling, conveyancing, registration of documents pertaining to sale, or any other form of transfer of ownership. It has to be coursed through if you want it to be secured in that transaction. We also have security. If you want to accept a collateral on movable property, we do that. We register your secured interest over movable collateral mortgage. In the advent of this new law, we are now developing another kind of registry system that would particularly cater to personal property security collateral, which I will discuss later. Now, prior to the advent of our computerized world, so to speak. LRA has been in operation. The torrent system of registration in the Philippines started in 1902. It is actually based on a Jurassic concept of a physical hard copy based certificate of title. So you can just imagine if all these titles are placed physically in one secured environment, there is still a possibility of it become damaged, it can become lost by reason of any other reason, by force majeure. Alam niyo naman sa Pilipinas, di ba? May baha, may lahar. So we started in 2000 to computerize. We actually came out with an idea to have this physical paper document be converted and placed in a soft copy, which is called now the LRA database. All right? Not only the titles consisting of, mind you, 25 million titles, okay, which are spread over the entire archipelago. So if you line up that 25 million certificate of titles in paper, you can probably reach the moon and back to the earth. So that's in that context, yun ang malaking database namin. So we started with computerization. So what does the computerization entail? So we are now have an operation of at least 98% computerized in terms of processes. Okay, there is no more manual registration of transactions. It's all, everything is in automated. We have tweaked the process to fit in with the computerized processes. We spruced up our physical environment, our vault, our offices. It is included in the deliverable of our third-party proponent. So we have now 26 extension offices. We have actually brought the services of the LRA to our stakeholders like banks, like institutions like SSS, Pag-ibig, where we set up kiosks in their respective offices for the purpose of obtaining certified true copy of titles that are supposed to be kept everywhere, anywhere in the Philippines. That is why I said to Ambassador Robles, there will come a time that the LRA would be able to put up a kiosk perhaps in the consular offices all over the world. All right. So that's it, 98%. We have already converted 25 million titles. All right. Now I will now focus on the enhancement that we have come up or introduced in this pandemic time. Okay, the first one is the e-Servicio portal. Okay, gone are the days where if you want to obtain a certified true copy of a title in a particular jurisdiction, location, like for example in Mindanao, you don't have to go to Mindanao. You can actually access and obtain a certified true copy anywhere in the Philippines where there is a local registry office. Now, in the context of a consular office, what we provide perhaps is this. By way of a Servicio portal, a Filipino community member in Canada would perhaps access the web of the LRA and try to obtain a certified true copy, and a certified true copy will be delivered free to your relative in the Philippines, not directly to you, because our system now caters only to local jurisdiction. In other words, libre yan. So there will come a time that we will have a mechanism by which we can actually send out the certified true copy to anywhere in the world, then that will be possible. But for the moment, the protocol is you can actually instruct your relative, or you yourself can access the website of the LRA and apply for a certified true copy and have it delivered to your relative or anybody here in the Philippines. Okay? So if you wanted, for example, to check whether the title of your property in Antipolo or in Ayala Alabang is still intact, at there's never been an annotated on the title, you can actually apply for a certified true copy and have it delivered to your relative in the Philippines, and perhaps it can be sent out to you by way of any means possible. So that's eServicio portal, which is free in the matter of courier. It will deliver free to your relative here in the Philippines. All right. Next, Citizens Land Registration Portal. You have a transaction, you have an impending transaction in the local registry office, and you wanted to be hands-on, okay? This is a pre-registration process where a Filipino community member in Canada can actually access the web of the LRA and pre-encode his transaction. What is the transaction? A deed of sale, perhaps, and whatsoever information that you have on your transaction. And again, because of the legal limitation that transactions in the RD has to be jurisdictional, all of these papers, these physical papers, although it is already downloaded, okay, prior because of our citizens land registration, it has to be delivered and surrendered to the RD by your relative or your agent here in the Philippines. This one, Philippine Personal Property Security. We are now actually developing this notice-based registry where any secured interest obtained by a mortgagee on a movable collateral can now be registered without any territorial jurisdiction. In other words, if somebody in the Philippines would like to offer a motor vehicle, a Lamborghini perhaps, in the Philippines, and you wanted to offer a loan to that person, then the mortgage agreement in respect to that movable or motor vehicle collateral can now be registered by you personally on the website, because our notice-based registry, insofar as the personal movable collateral is concerned, is without territorial jurisdiction. So it is mere notice-based and beyond territorial jurisdiction. Okay? So because of the law was promulgated actually in 2019, and LRA is mandated to come up with a full operationalization of that notice-based registry. We will be having that perhaps in 1 year or 18 months from our rollout last March. Okay. Now, online payment, actually this it has nothing to do with the Filipino community member transacting, because this actually is applicable only to registration transactions or obtaining certified true copy locally in the Philippines. But of course, ang tanong ko nga, ano yung pakinabang ng ating Filipino community member sa Canada in using this online payment? Well, I was told that pag halimbawa, yung inyong relative dito nag-transact ng transaction sa RD and he wanted to avail of the online payment, he can readily use any of this financial intermediary using your credit, using a bank account perhaps of a Filipino community member in Canada. So that's the way that this service can provide assistance to a Filipino community member in Canada. Okay, title upgrade program. As I have mentioned earlier, okay, our title population or the physical copy of your titles are kept in the vault of the RD. In the course of time, might have been, because of it's open to elements, might have been dilapidated, so blah blah blah. So we offer this voluntary title upgrade program where you can actually apply that, including yung owner's duplicate copy that will be surrendered, that will now be, as a result of our upgrade program, can now be converted in a fully digital copy, wherein it can now be assured 100% security that it can no longer be lost by any reason, force majeure or otherwise, because upon conversion of your title, although a physical copy of the owner's duplicate copy shall still be delivered to you, kasi kailangan mo pa rin ng ebidensya that you have the title. But the original copy that is supposed to be filed in the vault is no longer in a physical copy, so that it is now, shall we say, beyond lost or damaged. So there will come a time that the provision of our law pertaining to reconstitution will no longer be applicable, because there will be no more opportunity for all these titles to be lost in the RD's vault. This one, anywhere to anywhere, okay, in relation to the e-service portal, is that LRA can now actually allow access to any title kept in any of the RDs nationwide to a person remotely situated from that RD. All right, so if you are from Makati or Quezon City and you wanted to have a certified true copy because you wanted to have it presented as a collateral to a bank here in Makati, you don't have to go to Zamboanga or Davao and obtain a certified true copy. And in fact, because of this anywhere to anywhere service, by bringing an LRA extension offices, we have actually put out kiosks in major headquarters of local banks here in the Philippines. You can now go to Ayala and try to see in BPI, we have an LRA kiosk there where a prospective borrower can actually go there and obtain a certified true copy, and right then and there in the office of the bank can already transact his loan in that bank. So that's the beauty of this anywhere to anywhere services. Title owner identity verification system. Alam niyo po kasi, pag halimbawa hindi pa na-upgrade yung inyong titulo, okay, at pupunta ka, sasabihin sa inyo ng RD staff, ma'am, hahanapin pa ho namin yung titulo sa vault. Now, with this title owner identity verification system, you can actually go to the RD before an impending transaction, bago mo ibenta. You can actually go to the RD and have your title retrieve and put it in a parang bin, okay, wherein your identity will be identified, the pertinent title will now be identified and put in a parang preparatory bin, so that when you go to the RD, when the transaction has already been finalized, mabilis na siya. Okay, so that's title owner identity verification system and transaction ready program. Now, this one is a game changer, all right? In the past, if you wanted to transact a real property transaction, okay, you have to, well, it's a mandatory thing that you should pay your capital gains tax from the BIR, okay? So bago ka pumunta ng RD, you have to go to BIR and pay the necessary national tax like capital gains tax, the uh, documentary stamp tax. Now, because of the computerized program of the we have actually linked with the BIR and come up with this BIR LRA linkage, wherein upon payment of a taxpayer, buyer perhaps in a real estate transaction, upon payment of the capital gains tax and issuance of that very vital document of certificate authorizing registration that would evidence proof of payment of capital gains tax, that information of payment, okay, is but in real time delivered electronically, transmitted to the RD, so that when the registrant goes to the RD, nandun na yung kanyang e-car. The only thing that the RD would do is just to validate it through our computerized system. So there will be no more physical validation and verification. Kasi po dati, pag pumunta ka ng RD and you present your e-car, sasabihin sa'yo ng RD, teka muna, i-validate muna namin to sa BIR. And gone are those days where this certificate or authorizing registration presented to the RD are fake. Wala nang fake ngayon. So our BIR LRA linkage has actually solved these problems: tax leakage, okay, the ease of doing business, all right, and the secured feeling of the transacting client that his transaction will be processed immediately because of the electronic flow of information. Okay. We also have a linkage with our LRA Pag-ibig linkage. No? Any borrower of Pag-ibig, for that matter, socialized housing, real estate mortgage, involving a socialized housing unit, will now be placed in a more or less prioritized scheme with some processes that are actually enhanced to fit in with the transaction in favor of Pag-ibig. We are also now developing a strategy, an electronic solution wherein DNR, Land Management Bureau, in the matter of approval of subdivision plan and other technical requirement that has something to do with title, can now be electronically transmitted to the RDs, so that when the transacting client goes to the RD and have his particular title or lot subdivided, antimano yung subdivision plan is already there, electronically transmitted by the approving agency, which is the DNR. All right. All right. This one, alam ko, ito talaga yung gustong marinig ng ating Filipino community. What are the documentary requirements needed for some basic transaction of your relative here in the Philippines? Okay, let me point at one. Of course, a straightforward sale. Now, let me tell you the basic mandatory requirements for a deed of sale or any document that would effect a transfer of ownership from one person to another covered by a title. So, first, you must present the owner's duplicate copy, the original copy of the owner's duplicate copy. Then, of course, the notarized deed of sale, proof of payment of the capital gains tax, which I earlier mentioned, the transfer tax receipt payment, which should be paid to the local government, an updated real property tax clearance, the tax declaration, and for parties who are outside of the Philippines, you would require an apostille document. Okay? Dati kasi may red ribbon. But because, of course, alam ng mga nagpipitagang mga konsulado natin ito, because the Philippines now is a member of that agreement of we are now requiring, instead of a red ribbon certification, an apostille document. So let me give you an example. Okay, you go to the consular office of that particular state. Here, in this case, the state of Washington. There will be an apostille certification, a certification by a notary public, and another certification from the apostille officer of that particular consulate, and together with the deed of sale. Okay, this deed of sale is actually certified uh, by the apostille officer of the respective consular office. Then, instead of a red ribbon, dati kasi merong physical copy of the red ribbon na nakalagay. Ngayon, wala na. Alright. Now, on the matter of ayan, ito. Properties left by your ancestor here in the Philippines, and you are one of the heirs. So, what should your instruction be to your relative in the Philippines? Okay? Execute an extrajudicial settlement. Okay, that extrajudicial settlement that will be signed by all the heirs, including you in Canada, will have to be published in a newspaper of general circulation or local circulation. And the corresponding payment of taxes like estate tax, inheritance tax, the updating of the tax declaration. And then, because you signed the document of the extrajudicial settlement here in Canada, another apostille certification shall be sent to the Philippines, and voila, you can now have your extrajudicial settlement registered to effect transfer to you as one of the heirs of that decedent relative. Okay, let me discuss to you this estate tax amnesty. I'm sure you will be interested to know that in 2019, there was a law that was signed by PRRD, which actually allowed or entitled all estate in the matter of transfer from the decedent to the heirs. Okay, meron pong amnestia. Actually, hindi siya amnestia, but from the former 20%, based on the 20% of the net taxable estate of the estate of the deceased person, you are now imposed of a 6%. Okay, from a 20% and net taxable, it went down to 6%. Now the problem is, what if kung there are multi-generational transfers? Meaning, si great-grandfather namatay, hindi na settle. Si grandfather namatay, hindi rin na settle. And then your father namatay. Ngayon, isi-settle mo na lahat ng estate ito. In the olden times, okay, you will have to compute on the basis of 20% of each of the estate of this generation of deceased person. So you have to compute 20% of the estate of great-grandfather, grandfather. Now, because of the estate tax amnesty, which was extended, kasi the first law actually expired in 2021, this June 15. There was another law that was passed only recently, June 15, 2021, that extended the amnesty. All right? So now, even a multi-generational transfers, you are now allowed to file one singular estate tax return. Okay? But of course, yung 6% would still apply to each generation. Kasi merong gusto ko lang i-clarify, ang concept kasi nila, ang akala ng mga practitioners is lahat na yon 6%. All of the transfers. No. Each of the transfers should still be imposed a 6%. But the good thing is you can file it in one singular estate tax return, and based on the 6% shall be based at the time of death. So if the great grandfather died in 1930s, okay, the estate of the great grandfather shall be impose a 6% based on the value of the property in 1930s. Okay? And then all the surcharges and penalties will be waived. Okay. Now, another good thing with this moratorium is that kasi dati, before you can actually avail of the amnesty, you have to show proof of settlement of estate. You have to settle it first by way of extrajudicial settlement, by way of a judicial partition. Okay. Alam naman natin, in a Filipino community culture, di ba? In a Filipino family, the dynamics is that medyo mag-aaway-away yan, hindi yan magsisettle muna, or perhaps kawatak-watak, mahirap magpapirma ng extrajudicial settlement. Now, this new law, the extended law, okay, allows the payment of the estate tax and thereby availing of the amnesty even without first settling the estate. That's the good thing there. Huwag nyo nang hintayin muna na isettle kasi I'm sure yung settlement of estate will come much later. But if one of the heirs has the capacity and willing to pay the estate tax and wanted to avail of the amnesty, then at this point that heir can already pay the estate tax. Okay, and avail of the amnesty. All right, now we go to this series of questions that were priorly given to me by Ambassador Boss Rudy. Okay, LRA recently started an electronic. Please expound on this program. Well, I've already expounded. And all right, the basic question here is that gaano ka secure? Well, I can say to you that once your physically issued title is converted, it is 100% sure, secured. Okay? Now, the issue is, pag hindi ba na-convert yung aking titulo, will it still be remain valid and enforced? Yes. It remains to be, all converted title remains to be valid, enforceable, and in effect. No? Unlike when you say, pagka yung ating pera na demonetize, no? Yung pera na yan will lose its legal tender effect. Hindi pwede yan sa titulo. Because even if your title is not yet converted and you still have this Jurassic paper-based title, the implementation of our computerization program will not have the effect of invalidating your title. It will still be effective. Okay? Now, the next question is this. Let me just point out to you. In our torrent system, you are given the title is actually issued in 2 copies. One original copy that is supposed to be filed in the vault, and one owner's duplicate copy that will be delivered to the registered owner. Now, because of our computerization program, the original copy, which is supposed to be filed in the RG's vault, will now be in the soft copy. Okay? So we are now looking at an electronic vault. Okay? But the owner's duplicate copy will now be in this form. A fully digitized owner's duplicate copy, which will still be delivered to the registered owner. And mind you, because nag-computerize kami, we have enhanced the security features of your owner's duplicate copy. And the Bangko Sentral, keeping up with our program, also enhance the paper quality of your owner's duplicate copy in such a way that yung titulo nyo ngayon, parang pera na ngayon, mayroon ng mga embossed, imbroglio, intaglio border, so forth and so on. Now, for an owner's duplicate copy that has been lost, what is the remedy? The process is actually called petition for reissuance of new owner's duplicate copy in lieu of the lost one. Now, if the copy that is lost is the vault copy, the correct remedy is reconstitution. But in the event that all of the copy of your titles are now in digitized, there will be no need for the reconstitution process. Okay, we're with more than 10 million Pinos residing overseas. Is LRA considered an online system that will be able to transfer titles without physically going to the local land registrar? Well, sadly, there is a legal limitation, okay? Because our law, PD 1529, which was promulgated in 1970, and actually a reiteration of another antiquated law in 1903, okay? It says that any registration process should be conducted or be registered in the register of deeds where of the province or city where the property is situated. So you really have to go to that RD. And then there is also a limitation that the owner's duplicate copy, has to be physically surrendered. So you really need to go to the RD. Now, what would be the best way to reconstitute or reissue in a manner that is safe for Filipinos abroad? The best way to convert it is by availing the voluntary title upgrade program. Now, the fear is, isusurrender namin yung owner's duplicate copy of our title. How secure can a client have that peace of mind na maibabalik sa kanya yung digital copy? We have security features that would ensure that immediately upon surrender of your owner's duplicate, within a certain period of time, you can have your electronic digital copy delivered or given back to you. Okay? So that apprehension is actually taken care of by our process itself. What is the protocol in terms of adverse possession if your property here in the Philippines has been encroached or overlapped upon by another interloper? Okay? The good thing about our torrent system in Philippine jurisdiction is, unlike in America and in other Western jurisdiction, is that we have a torrent system that provides a principle that it is the government that actually ensures security of your title. That upon registration of your title, okay, anybody, even without personal knowledge of that somebody, has a constructive knowledge that that property covered by a registered title is actually yours, and any attempt or any action to encroach upon it, you have the remedy to eject him. Okay? That is our torrent. That's the way our torrent system operates here. And so, unlike in America, where there is the need of a title insurance, okay, dito po sa Pilipinas, walang title insurance because it is the torrent system itself, and the government assures you that once a title is registered under your name, it becomes indefeasible and imprescriptible from any adverse possession from any interloper. Okay? And so, of course, you have to really secure physically your property. So if you have property in Ayala Alabang, you really have to fence it off, okay, to prevent any interloper or squatters to go inside your property. Okay, is there a prescription in terms of number of years to inherit land? No, there is no prescription. Okay, even if your ascendant died in 1940s and you are the sole heir, you can still inherit from it, even the lapse of despite the lapse of time, because there is no prescription of acquiring ownership land through succession, because it is mandated by our constitution. The only limitation, okay, is that alien, okay, non-Filipino cannot acquire real property in the Philippines. Now, what about those natural-born Filipino citizens who have acquired or embraced Canadian citizenship? Can they still acquire? Yes, because there are a lot of exceptions here. Okay, one of the exceptions I mentioned, interstate succession. So even if you're a Canadian citizen and you have an inherited property, it can still be transferred to you on the condition that you have to settle, you have to execute extrajudicial settlement. You can still inherit despite the lapse of time, right? Another law, the Batas Pamansa Bilang 185, allows a former natural-born citizen who would like to acquire piece of property in the Philippines for residential purposes. Okay, may limitation na as to the area. And then, if you want to set up a business here and you wanted to acquire real properties in the Philippines for business purposes under the Omnibus Investment Code, you are allowed, even if you are a Canadian citizen. Okay, and of course, dual citizenship law allows you dual citizenship, and therefore you are now reinstated to your both political and civil rights, which include the right to acquire real property. And Condominium Act, of course. Okay, because under the condominium law, the concept is that you are actually acquiring the unit, okay, and you have a proportional ownership of the land on which the condominium building is situated, and therefore you are effectively also an owner of the land, but not in a capacity of a putative owner of that land, but as a proportional owner of the condominium corporation. So yung stocks mo yung nagmamayari nun, not you in your capacity as a putative landowner. All right. LRA have a standard SPA available online. Sadly, there is none, but LRA will consider that. Anyway, ang mga SPA naman can be accessed through the website. Maraming mga pwedeng i-google. Now, the LRA online database for use by Filipinos to access by way of confirmation. Thus, Mr. X really has a registered title in the Philippines by way of accessing the database through the website. Sadly, again, that cannot be done because of the limitation that it might we might violate the data privacy law. We cannot just allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry and have access to our website to research whether Mr. A, B, and C has property in Ayala Alabang, because again, aside from the data privacy law, that will be again a security risk for that person. Alright? Sabihin niya, oh, eto pala si Mr. X, maraming condominium pala yan sa Serenda. Now, target siya ngayon ng KFR, kidnapping for ransom. Okay. Some Filipinos hold on to the deed of sale and delay the registration. Is there any prescription of a deed of sale that was notarized 5 years ago? Can it still be registered today? Yes, but our civil code provides for a prescriptive period that the right to enforce on the basis of an actionable written document is only 10 years. And of course, we have to deal with a BIR regulation that upon notarization of a deed of sale, you have to pay the capital gains tax within a certain period of time. I guess 1 month yata upon notarization, you have to pay the capital gains tax. So the advice is you have to, upon notarization of the deed of sale, wag na kayong magpatumpik-tumpik, irehistro nyo kaagad. All right. How many continuous years of period of payment of real property tax. Itong problema ng mga actually ng mga absentee landowners, especially in Tagaytay. Marami tayong mga balikbayan na may mga property sa Tagaytay. Okay. How many years of delinquency in the payment of real property tax? Mind you, real property tax are being paid to the local government unit. Okay. Under the local government code, it lies within the local government in its local government tax ordinance to impose how many years, okay, but not for a period shorter of 5 years. You really have to to be wary of that, because there are a lot of LGUs who are so aggressive, no, in auctioning off. Kasi after the delinquency period and you are considered delinquent, the LGU will now have the right, the license, the authority, of course, under due process, no, to auction off and have it sold by a public bidding to any interested party. And sometimes, if there is no private bidder, the local government will have to confiscate, forfeit it in favor of the local government. All right, now, ang gimmick ganito, there are local government na minamali nila yung sending off of the notice of delinquency and such other notices, so that the absentee voter, oblivious of the facts, totally unknowing na yung palang kanyang real property tax hindi niya nabayaran, meron ng notice of delinquency, and without him knowing it, after several years, hindi na pala sa kanya yung titulo. Okay, because the local government is already auctioned off. Okay, so the rule is it is only within 5 years, no, not shorter than 5 years. So kailangan you have to be very vigilant to your relatives here to regularly check with the local government unit in the assessors of to check whether your real property tax has been regularly paid. Okay, what is the payment options for payment of real property tax? Real property tax are paid directly to the government unit, and unfortunately, I don't have any knowledge whether they ano yung scheme of collection nila. All right. Now, finally, I'm sure this is a question that actually came from a landowner in Canada whose property has been subjected to dark coverage. The question is, what steps must the heirs undertake for properties that are tenanted so that it cannot be covered by compulsory coverage? There are a lot of ways by which you can avoid your property being covered. First, if there is a tenant, okay, convince him to execute an affidavit of non-tenancy or voluntary surrender of tenanted land in favor of you as the landowner. Okay. And now, if there is already a title issued in favor of the farmer beneficiary pursuant to the agrarian reform program of the government, and you are questioning the regularity, he misrepresented himself to be a tenant where hindi naman talaga siya tenant, there is a remedy for that. There is a petition for exclusion or cancellation on the ground of fraudulent misrepresentation to be filed not in the court, okay, but you have to go directly to the DAR secretary. Now, there are instances where the notice of coverage by the DAR upon the initiation of the coverage procedure, pinadala pero hindi ka naka-receive. And so therefore, the coverage procedure process pushed through without your knowledge. That can be questioned. Okay? That can be questioned and nullify the procedure so that any titles issued pursuant to that irregularly or lack of due process issued to a farmer beneficiary can be nullified and the title be reinstated back to the landowner. Okay, perhaps I have already tackled all the necessary frequently asked questions of our Filipino kababayans in Canada by way of the prior listed questions. So with that, I would like to thank Ambassador Rudy Robles for this opportunity for LRA on behalf of my administrator to be invited and present our programs. Thank you so much. Pinagpipitagan naming mga miyembro ng Diplomatic Corps sa Canadian Post. Thank you so much. Sir, that would conclude my presentation.
Salamat po, Deputy Bob, for that very enlightening presentation. I think you have agreed with the Ambassador that you are willing to take some questions arising from this presentation. But before I ask our host to ask their questions, may I acknowledge the presence of our Consul Jed Yona from our consulate from San Francisco. So we have a representative from the US here with us tonight. And also, that Bob, Canada is not a party to the Apostille Convention. So we continue to authenticate documents po. Wala po silang apostille dito. With that, I now open the floor. I now open the floor for questions from our consulates. Let me start with our embassy in Ottawa. Consul Eric, do you have a question?
Sir, what can the LRA advise overseas Filipinos on how to protect their property from illegal or unauthorized conveyance by their spouse in the Philippines?
First and foremost, if the property covered by a title is registered under the name of the absolute community of the spouses or married to. So it is considered in our Philippine jurisprudence jurisdiction as conjugal or absolute community. Any conveyance, disposition, okay, made by the spouse without the consent of the other spouse is void ab initio. Okay? So the remedy is to file a petition for cancellation. Now, ang tanong is, paano mo ma-avoid? Paano mo ma-avoid? Alright. Now, if you have the owner's duplicate copy of the title, because in any voluntary conveyance, the owner's duplicate copy has to be surrendered to the Register of Deeds so that a new title will be issued to the transferee. Now, if you have the owner's duplicate copy, keep it, okay? Be in possession of the owner's duplicate copy so that any attempt to dispose of it by the, shall we say, what, belligerent wife or spouse can be attempted. Okay. However, let me warn you. There is, lalo na pagka may abogado rin siya, okay? Sasabihin niya, we will make it appear that this owner's duplicate copy is in your possession, but somehow it was lost. Okay? And then, magpa-file siya ng affidavit of loss, and then pursuant to that affidavit of loss, he will go to court and file a petition for reissuance of new owner's duplicate copy. Alright? And on the basis of that newly reissued owner's duplicate copy granted by the court, he can now sell it, okay, by forging your signature. Now, is it annulable? Yes. Because still, it is a void title. Any title arising from that irregular transaction is a void title. However, you will have the inconvenience of going to court, filing a petition for cancellation. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you po. May I call on Vancouver PCG if you have any question? Vancouver.
Good morning po, good afternoon, and good evening po sa lahat. Sir, can applicants abroad po apply for the conversion of their paper title to digital title remotely?
Honestly, it cannot be done because for a voluntary title upgrade program be allowed, first, you have to surrender the owner's duplicate copy, which is in your possession. Okay? That's the basic limitation. So that owner's duplicate copy has to be surrendered to the RD, where the property is situated. So perhaps in the future enhancement where we have an ideal world where all of the transactions can be transacted anywhere. Okay? Pwede siguro yan. But mind you, because of the legal limitation, we really have to introduce some legislative measures to fit into the realities now happening by way of digital, now us being now digitally native, as they say.
Thank you po. I call on our colleagues from Calgary, ECG. Calgary, you have a question?
Thank you, DCM Noel. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Deputy Administrator. My question is related to the inheritance of land. You mentioned a while ago that former natural born Filipinos can still own land, but subject to limits, 1,000 square meter in the city and 1 hectare in the rural area. But in the case of inheritance,
There is no limitation.
in the case of inheritance, they can inherit more than that size.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there is no requirement that you should be a natural born citizen, no? That
Okay.
is a direct constitutional exception. That even if you are an alien, you have embraced alien citizenship, regardless, okay? But by way of inheritance, you can still have it titled under your name. However, ito lang, kolatilya. When we say inheritance, by way of intestate succession, meaning there should be no will. Okay? In the absence of a will. Ang tawag dyan, intestate succession, because a Supreme Court decision in the past decided that a testamentary succession may not fall under that exception because it can circumvent the Constitution.
Thank you po. May I call on our colleagues from Toronto, PCG. Toronto, you have a question?
Thank you very much, Deputy Administrator. The question is, I think it's a reiteration of the question of whether the different Philippine Foreign Service posts can be designated as an authorized agent to process applications for certified true copy of a torrents title for our kababayan abroad, similar to NBI under the Anywhere to Anywhere project.
As of this moment, because of the technical limitation, we cannot as of yet do that. All right? You are actually contemplating an LRA extension office to our foreign post. Yes, that can be done. But at this moment, we have not yet the technical capacity or capability to actually undertake that. Pero that's a good we have already considered that very, very seriously.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat po. I think we still have time for one more round. Bob, kung pwede sa'yo.
Sure.
If you can ask Ottawa, we have another question, Ottawa.
Ano na lang, sir. Does the LRA have a facility where, for example, a person can register a lien or encumbrance on another person's title remotely?
No, sir. No. You are referring to an adverse claim. You can actually annotate or register on somebody's title if you have an adverse claim on that property. The way to do it is you have to file an affidavit of adverse claim. Okay? And that affidavit of adverse claim shall be presented to the registry office, and on the basis of that affidavit, it shall be annotated on the original copy of the title that is filed in our system. So when that property owner gets a certified true copy of his own title, he will be surprised. Uy, meron na palang adverse claim dito. Now, for your question, can you do it remotely? I am afraid at this point we cannot yet do that.
Thank you po. We now go to Vancouver. Vancouver, do you have another question?
Good afternoon po, sir. Thank you po for the wonderful presentation po. Sir, my question lang po is, it has to do with the yung mga authenticated deed of absolute sale po, sir. Does the LRA po ba require a certain number of authenticated or apostillized deed of sale for the registration of their property? Kasi maraming mga clients po nagko-complain. They're being required by the developers to secure many number of authenticated deed of absolute sale, which is quite pricey po. So, ano po yung advice natin sa kanila on how many copies po talaga should they secure?
First of all, the LRA regulation is that only one original copy of the apostille document is required for the registration of any transaction if it is executed abroad. The dilemma actually lies in the fact that this apostille document shall also be presented in the BIR if you pay the capital gains tax. So, I don't know if they also require that they get a copy of that apostille document. When you apply for an updated real property tax declaration in the local government assessor's office, or in the payment of transfer tax in the local government unit, maghihingi din sila ng apostille document. So the answer is, insofar as LRA is concerned, only one. But my suggestion is, well, perhaps you can advise na mas marami, mas okay. Kasi you wouldn't know kung anong ahensya pa ang maghihingi niyan. For example, if it is agricultural property, para makakuha ka ng DAR clearance, the DAR would also require the submission of that apostille document. So I wouldn't know kung original din ang i-require nila. Yes,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you po. Calgary, meron pa kayong tanong?
Yep, one more, Noel. Sir, related to my previous question, you mentioned that an alien can inherit a land in the Philippines. But can that alien pass it on to another alien? Assuming yung children
No.
are Canadians, so they have to be dual citizens,
No.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Clear.
that alien inheriting it from his ancestor, God forbids, upon his death, his alien children again can inherit it. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you for that question. Toronto, you have another question? Toronto?
Thank you for the call, sir. This is to address some paranoia with regards to shifting to digital security documents. You've informed us of how you're securing the e-documents. by means of enhanced security features of the paper or the document. Can you inform us on the digital hardware and software security of your e-systems? And on a related question, how do you secure the system from third-party partners that are non-government agencies? Thank you.
With the caveat that I am not a techie person, I am not actually an IT guy, if you may call it. However, let me explain it in a way that perhaps like me, like a grade 4 student can explain it. They explain that our database, no, the feature of our database is that one RD, which is a server, no, the front end server has a backup server of a server in the LRA central office. And that LRA central office server, okay, that process real time any transaction. Alam niyo po kasi yung transaction sa RD can be very very volatile. Today, merong mortgage. A few hours thereafter, there will be sale. So, magta-transfer yan ng title number. So, real time, our server is updated. All right? So, from a front-end server, it can be backed up by another, it will be backed up by the LRA central server, central office server, which is the back-end server, and another, they call it IT language, redundancy facility. Okay? Business continuity facility that is located somewhere else, the location of which I cannot divulge. All right? Now, we are now looking at cloud databasing, cloud. So, actually, hindi ko I cannot actually explain it further in cloud. Now, a question is, how can we protect the database from other agencies that have linked with us? No? Baka itinker nila yung database. Babaguhin nila yung property ownership. All right. Now, there's such a solution that was explained to us that the data, no, database information between and among other government agencies are actually, no, there is a distinct wall that separates. So, meron siyang parang, shall we say, halfway house, so to speak, so that the database of LRA cannot be directly be accessed by another government agency. There will only be a point where the two agencies would link or marry, but they cannot actually directly access. Ganun po ang pagka-explain. Now, can the public, as I have explained earlier on, the public cannot just access the LRA database on the web because that would be very, very dangerous. We are operating on an intranet. In fact, it has been explained to us that the way our system is developed is such that any LRA staff, no, sa mga offices namin, cannot just put in any external device in our computer hardware. So that pwede niyang kunin. He can mine any data from the system. No, he cannot do that.
Thank you po, Deb Bob. I think we have exhausted the available time for our open forum. May I now invite Ambassador Robles to say some closing words, sir?
Right. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Noel. Meron ba ako? Yep. Allow me to make a public confession. I am tantalized by the interconnections of the multitude of your services. because I think you have lectured on all of us, including myself. For me, it's more than 50% of my stock knowledge. Many of those things are new, so I don't have any access to those knowledge, but you have delivered really a textbook of knowledge, which I would say would cost maybe $100 in Canada. But more than that, I think you have salvaged many things, like the precious time of everybody working here in Canada who are very busy. If they have problems about the titles, they can easily access your website. And more than that, you have also salvaged a lot of hard-earned money because they don't have to travel to the Philippines to solve many of those problems, little problems. And also, you have also salvaged maybe a bag full of anxieties because of lack of sufficient knowledge on what to do during those inside of those problems they are encountering. So I think you have done us a nationwide favor to our constituents here in Canada, and I would like to double congratulate you for the time you're sharing with us. More than the textbook, you have also lectured on other legal matters, which did not have a chance. Like Aisha, I think she's a lawyer, and she's smiling because there are many things that maybe she heard for the first time, including myself. So, Bob, Deputy Bob, thank you very much. Thank you very much for what you've done for our countrymen here in Canada, and I hope when it reaches other medium of our technology, it will reach more people, not only here, but in the United States and maybe all over the world. So you've done us really a wonderful gift to all Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also here or any place in the So again, Bob, I cannot measure how much I owe you, or I have to thank you for this effort of yours tonight. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for all those who participated and clarified many questions which are hanging around anxiously in our minds. Thank you very much.
By way of a rejoinder, sir. By way of a rejoinder, I just would like to say this
One
one
more.
sentence. One
Okay.
sentence. Please take care of our kababayans in Canada. Alam ko, as a good father of a family, you have already taken care very well of our Filipino community in Canada. And I am very thankful that we have somebody like RDR who is at the helm of our Philippine Embassy in Canada. This perhaps comes from a more or less selfish interest because I have a sister who is now based in Edmonton, Alberta. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Alam ko, kayang-kaya mong alagaan yung ating mga komunidad sa Canada.
DCM.
Yes, sir.
One footnote, one little footnote. You have mentioned about cases that has to be brought to court. But supposing somebody here in Canada does not know any lawyer in the Philippines, what can they do?
Sir, in my presentation,
proceed.
In my presentation, I have allowed access to my contact number because as LRA Deputy Administrator, I have access to more or less regional groupings of lawyers. So, kung meron kayo pong mga legal concerns, you can probably course it through me and I can very well refer you to a group of regional lawyers that I have some connections.
Thank you. Thank you again.